Hi everyone, my name is Deepa Antony, and I love reading. So I write for this column called Literature for Mathrubhumi, which is a newspaper in Kerala, and I'm also the Malayalam audiobook publisher for Storytel. And I am a Malayali, I am from Kerala, and I think this is necessary to say right now because we live in a country where an MP says we don't have racism in India because we live with South Indians. And everybody today is actively debating or talking about racism, casteism, and color. So these things are live discussions, and it is a necessary discussion. It is about time we had this discussion. And so that brings me to what we're going to talk today. I'm going to list out a couple of books from Dalit Literature. And over the years, from a lot of stories that I've read, I think these stories or Dalit literature in itself is very important because we see a lot of incidents happening across the globe, across India. So when these things happen, they just turn out to be a statistic or a number in the newspapers. But it is through these stories I feel that their lives come about in our imagination, in our minds. And I am not a Dalit. And so I do not have a lived experience to fall back on, to educate or to inform my conscience, my ideologies. So it is through these stories that I understand how a society has evolved, how our culture and our history has shaped the way we think today. And so I think these stories are extremely important for us to know because if we don't know these stories, we cannot judge a society based on how we treat every single one of us. So I'm going to start today with this book, which is a classic in Malayalam. But of course, the book is being translated to English. This book is called Chemmeen. Each and every Malayali grows up knowing this story because this novel from 1930s was written by Thakazhi Sivasankarapilla. Thakazhi Sivasankarapilla is one of the pioneers in Dalit literature from Kerala. His novels called Randidangari and Thottiyude Magan, which literally translates to Son of a Manual Scavenger, are all caste narratives of his times. But the reason I chose Chemmeen over all these other novels is because it is a love story. The story is of Karthamma, who's a fisherwoman. She falls in love with this man called Padikutti, who is a Muslim. And so from the very beginning, their love is fated to not being realized because they know that they cannot live together. And so eventually Karthamma is married off to another man. Immediately, just like that, it's a love triangle. The story takes us through the myths, the culture, the sociology, the class differences, every single aspect of what it means to be a fisherwoman or a Dalit or to fall in love with somebody who is not in your, not a part of your community. And there is a lot of friction and there is a lot of yearning. And so it's a beautiful story and I think it deserves a lot more readers. There is a beautiful translation by Anita Nair in English of Chemmeen, so do check it out. Moving on to the next book. This book is by one of my favorite writers, Indian writers right now. It's by Perumal Murugan. Now I know that a lot of you have read Poonachi. I personally love Poonachi. I also love Untitled Woman. But Seasons of the Palm, this book is something else. So this story is of Shorty. Shorty is a young goat herd who's going about his life with his friends. His friends are tall fellow, stone deaf, belly. And it's sort of a coming of age story also. Actually, this was recommended to me by Anita Nair when I was interviewing her for asking her for her best reads of the year. It's such a delicate, sensitive story that it takes you very subtly through the lives of these boys who are just going about their life, and you realize suddenly that these are real people, but you don't even know their names, and their names are just features, So that is the level of dehumanization, that is the level of discrimination that a bonded laborer goes through on a day-to-day basis. But then there are moments of victory, there are moments of happiness, but you still know that this life is not what he deserves, So in that way, this is a very precious book. I loved reading this, and I'm sure you will too. Do check it out. The next book is also a pioneering work in Malayalam Dalit literature. It's called Pulayathara by Paul Chirakkarode. He is one of the pioneering Dalit activists from Kerala, and he has written a number of works. Pulayathara stands out. This translation is by Thankamma. So Pulayathara tells us the story of Thevan Pulayan and his son Kandangoran. Thevan Pulayan starts his life working as a labourer for this particular landlord. He's working in this piece of land day in, day out, and he also lives by the fringes of this field. He sort of piles on clay and sort of makes a space for him and builds his hut on it, and that is what he calls his home, or Tara. And Pulayathara because it is the Pulayan's house. And eventually one day something happens and he loses favor in the landlord's eyes, and he's asked to vacate the house which he has practically lived all his life there, and he's also made his living off it. Suddenly he finds himself homeless, landless, jobless, and Kandangoran, who's his son, takes over, and he's also come into this new line of thinking, and the story takes shape from there on. But what it really shows you, it's one of the earliest works from Kerala about Dalit Christians from Kerala, and in that way it informs me about the Dalit culture in Kerala, and it really opens your eyes to the caste system in the Malabar Christian community. Another book that I want to talk to you about on the same lines. This is a very old work, but recently there was this novel called Karikotakari. Karikotakari is a place in Malabar. It's called the Canaan or promised land of the Pudu Christianis or Avasha Christianis. Pudu Christianis meaning new Christians, or Avasha Christianis meaning weak Christians. These are people who have converted from other religions to Christianity, and they have retained their Dalit status. And this is and Karikotakari is sort of like their promised land in Kerala. And there's this novel by Vinoy Thomas. It's his debut work, and it's a stellar work, I have to tell you. But unfortunately, it has not been translated yet. I really hope somebody translates the work to English so that it gets more readers, because honestly, I feel it deserves a lot more readers. And it talks about the difference, the social difference, the cultural difference, and the culture not as much, but social difference and the different opportunities one gets for education, for a job, if you are a Dalit or a so-called upper class or upper caste. And it's a very, very searing, rustic novel that deserves a lot more readers. But unfortunately, right now it's only in Malayalam. It's by Vinoy Thomas called Karikotakari. So, moving on. There is another novel I want to talk to you about. It's also from Malayalam. It's a very recent novel. It's called Meesa by S. Hareesh. And there is this translation by Jayasree Kalathil called Moustache. The reason I chose this novel is because while it is a Dalit narrative, it also delves on magical realism, fantasy, and it sort of takes you on a ride of the cultural nuances of Kerala. So this story is of Vavachan. So we go through different time periods in Vavachan's life. So Vavachan is a Dalit, he's a Pulayan. He's a Dalit from Alapi. So this entire novel takes place in Kutanadu, which is my native place. And so Vavachan is this random fellow who happens to have a big moustache. And this is at a time when the so-called lower caste or Dalits or Pulayans, as they are known and mostly known in Kerala, they are not allowed to have facial hair, because apparently facial hair denotes authority. It denotes superiority. So they are not allowed to have facial hair. So one fine day, what happens is this drama troupe comes to Kutanadu. in Alapi, and they are looking for a cast member, or looking for an actor with a mustache to play a policeman's role. And they come across Vavachan, and Vavachan's mustache and his whole appearance sort of fits their bill. And Vavachan's mustache is a mistake. He usually does not have a mustache, but he just happened to have a mustache around that time. So they take him onto the play. He plays the role. It's not a speaking part. He just has 2 scenes, but he does it well. His mustache sort of allows him to stand out in the whole cast. And the drama troupe leaves, but Vavachan decides to keep his mustache. And all hell breaks loose, sort of. And henceforth, Vavachan is known as Meesa, which means mustache. And this novel by S. Hareesh is complicated. No, even the English is not an easy read. I would not say that, because it has a lot of local flavor in it. So, in order to get a cultural feel, a sense of what the people are, the way they think, they talk, and the way they behave, especially in the rural areas of Kerala, this is a good book to to read and understand the people, sort of. Not the urban population, of course, but the rural population. And it's a very fun read, because there are elements of magical realism, there are elements of fantasy, and it's all good fun, but it also very, very clearly, very lucidly explains how caste gets into every single choice of a person. A person is not allowed to have a mustache. He has a mustache. Later on, how does the mustache change the way people look at him? And so in all of this, it's really a fun read. I would definitely recommend for you to check out Moustache. Moving on, the next book is The Heat by Poomani. This book is a Tamil classic. Poomani is a very well regarded writer from Tamil literature, and he's also known to write a lot of Dalit literature. And so this story is about a boy, a very young boy called Chidambaram. So when the novel starts, Chidambaram has killed a local landlord. And every few pages we understand why he did it, what brought him to the point to, commit a murder, and how his family is coping with it, how he is coping with it, and where they are going henceforth. And very slowly you understand the clash is actually caste based, and also how it got to this point. And you go through a myriad of emotions for this boy, for the family. Is it revenge, or is it a way to survive? These are all questions, existential questions you are worrying about constantly for Chidambaram and his family. So it's not an easy read. It's sort of painful, and it really haunted me for a while. So these are the books that I really wanted to talk to you about. There's one more book which I'm sure a lot of you have read, and I just read it very recently. I thought I just tell you about it. Coming Out as Dalit by Yashika Dutt is a book that I very recently read, and it's a collection of essays, autobiographical and otherwise. Very, very important piece of work, and I think anybody and everybody should read the book to inform yourself, to learn and unlearn everything that you have been seeing around you. It gave me a very fresh perspective as to how casteism, our caste system, is affecting us today. In 2020, how is it affecting our understanding? How is it affecting our knowledge of how people have been stifled, how their choices have been taken away from them, and how it has left people feeling. So I believe everybody should read Coming Out as Dalit by Yashika Dutt. These are the books I want to talk to you about on Dalit literature. I enjoyed all these books. I enjoyed reading all these books. So I also hope and wish that you will also enjoy reading these books. So let me know how you like the books. Read these books. Let me know how you find it. And subscribe to Books on Toast. Subscribe to the channel. Like, share and subscribe. And I'll see you again. Bye-bye.